Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today I've got Jim Harshaw with me. Jim, how you doing?
Great, man. Great to meet you, Brett.
Great to be with you. You are in Charlottesville, Virginia. What's cooking in Charlottesville today?
Charlottesville's good, man. I'm Pittsburgh native, but born and bred up there. But Charlottesville's home now. I went to the University of Virginia. Tried leaving a couple times and it didn't work. This place has a gravity to it. So
It sucked you back in.
yeah.
That's
Wife and
awesome,
four
man.
kids. We're growing our roots here. We love it.
How old are the kids?
9 through 17. So 2 boys and 2 girls. So we got 3 teenagers now and a 9-year-old. And so it's, life is busy. It takes effort to stay balanced and to keep everything moving the right direction in all the areas of your life, which is really the crux of what I do with people.
That's right. Well, we must be in the exact same boat. My youngest just turned 9 on Saturday, so I've got a 9.
Yeah,
my 13-year-old just turned 13 2 Fridays ago, and then a 15 and a 17-year-old. So
that's exact same ages. Yeah.
Maybe we'll just stay in this exact same tone for the podcast. Let's talk about being a father of 4 kids and how crazy it is.
Yeah. We could talk for days about that.
Absolutely. Well, you are a former Division I All-American athlete, internationally recognized TEDx speaker, and a personal performance coach. You've impacted hundreds of thousands of lives across the world, helping clients and audiences increase resilience, maximize potential, and build high-performing teams. And so some of those things is what we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, if you can, man, just give us a little lay of the land. What's made you the man you are today, and tell us a little bit about that upbringing and where you're at today.
Yeah. So grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Like I said, I'm a blue collar kid. Grew up in a small town. Dad was a construction worker. Mom was a secretary. Blue collar, hardworking folks. Kind of always had the mindset that success was for other people, and that carried over into my wrestling. And I never achieved any of my goals in wrestling in high school. My goal was to be a state champion. Never won a state championship. Never even got onto the podium at the state championship. So it didn't even come close. But I worked hard and got good grades, not great, but good grades, and good enough to between my grades and wrestling, it opened up the door for me to get into the #1 public academic university in the country at the University of Virginia. And so got to UVA and just felt like I was over my head there. I was, everybody on the wrestling team was a state champion or a 3-time or 2-time state place winner. I was none of those. Academically, like I said, I got in because of wrestling. Even socially, it's a white collar sort of affluent school. And, we didn't have a whole lot growing up, and so it was a definite point in my life where I thought to myself, like, this is the next level. Can I make it at the next level? Can I find success here? Do I belong here? A lot of doubt, a lot of uncertainty. And 5 years later, I graduate with an undergraduate degree and a master's degree. Wow. I was a 3-time ACC champion, NCAA All-American, Division I All-American. I was ranked on the Olympic level in the United States. At that point, I was invited to live and train at the Olympic Training Center as an Olympic hopeful. So complete transformation happened in that time at Virginia.
So what boil that back for us if you can, like boil that down for us, I should say. Like, what was it about that, right? If you come in, and I'm using air quotes for those not watching and just listening, maybe if you were average, right, you don't win, I think you said 3 ACC championships, right? And so that doesn't just happen, man. So what clicked for you to take that mindset from I'm mediocre average to I'm one of the best?
Yeah. Great question. So I couldn't put it into words for a long time, because after I got out of college, I ended up getting into coaching, and I ended up as I was a Division I head coach. I was the youngest Division I head coach in the country. I got coached for about a decade, got out of coaching, started my first business, and that was successful. I sold that, started my next business, raised some angel capital, built a technology company. And about 2 years into that, I realized that everything I'm trying to build for my family is crumbling around me. I had a failing business. We had debt up to our eyeballs. Wasn't spending enough time with my wife and kids. I was just so single-minded focus on one thing. Like I was single-minded focus in wrestling, and I was single-minded focus in this business. And so I was, not paying attention to my wife or my kids. I wasn't working out. I was in the worst physical shape of my life. I was broken at that point.
Hmm.
And so to get back to the point of, what was it during that time at Virginia that turned me from sort of underperformer to peak performer, I was trying to figure that same thing out. I'm laying there in bed as I'm closing down this business. I'm, pulling the plug on this thing, and I'm starting to look for jobs, and I'm on like Craigslist, like looking for jobs, scrolling past jobs for like paper boys and unpaid internships, and thinking to myself, like this wasn't supposed to be my trajectory. Like I wasn't, didn't, I thought I'd be further along at this point in my career. And so I thought to myself, like, what was in place in my life that helped me go from underperformer to peak performer, that totally transformed me when I was wrestling? And people talk about all these great life lessons that you learn in sports. Like I need them now, because I don't know if I didn't learn them or I wasn't paying attention, but I definitely need them now. And so I was laying there. I remember it was like laying there at night, one night next to my wife. She was asleep in bed, and I'm like staring at the ceiling in the dark. I'm thinking to myself, like, what was in place then? It's not in place now.
Right.
And I realized it was like a camera lens coming into focus. There were four very distinct things that were in place then that were not in place at that moment. And the first one is this: I had a very clear vision for what success looked like for me. And it was based upon my values. Okay. So I had this vision, this very clear vision, and it was based upon my values. And, when you're an athlete, the vision for success, it's pretty clear, but you get out into the real world, it's undefined, right? We have so many different things, shiny objects and things that we want. And it's like, what does success actually look like for me? What is that clear vision that I'm pursuing? And what is it based on? And to be honest, when I was wrestling, I could have told you my core values like I can today, but I knew I wanted to be tough. I wanted to be respected. I wanted to go on to success after wrestling, like so many of my heroes and mentors did before me. And so that was the first piece, is I had this clear vision and these values. And then the second piece of 4 is I had goals that aligned with those values, not goals that aligned with, what the mass media tells you that you should want, or what you see on social media, or what you see parked in your neighbor's driveway, but goals that aligned with Jim, with who I was at a deep foundational level. Because when you have that, failing in adversity and setbacks, they're not quite irrelevant, but certainly the pain and the impact that those have on you is significantly less. You can be resilient. You can keep getting up one more time. You can do the hard work. And I make a distinction between hard work and inspired action. I mean, wrestling is known for being a tough sport and the hard work that we put in, but really it's inspired action. I was inspired to do the things that I had to do to get to where I got to get onto the podium at national championships, to be an Olympic hopeful. I was inspired to do that. It wasn't hard work. I mean, it was hard work, of course, in the sort of the traditional sense, but
but you loved it.
I was inspired to do it. Right. And so the one caveat I'll make here is, like, again, I said earlier that I had a single-minded focus when I was wrestling, and I had a single-minded focus with this business that failed. In the real world, guys like you and I, Brett, we can't have a single-minded focus. We have, we have our careers, we have our health and wellness, we have our families. There's so much at stake here, more than just, winning a wrestling match or winning a championship. So that's the second piece. And then the third part was, I had what I call an environment of excellence. I had coaches around me, like coaches who had walked the walk. They knew how to get me from where I was to where I wanted to go. They held me accountable. They asked me the hard question. They kicked me in the ass if I needed a kick, or helped me course correct if that's what I needed. They could see my blind spots. I was around, teammates, like like-minded people going through the same ups and downs, going through the same successes and the same failure, who had similar goals as me. So this is this environment that I had around me, this environment of excellence that, again, when I had this business that failed, like, I didn't have that. I wasn't surrounded by the right people, not just in my business life, but also in my personal life, in my health and fitness. I mentioned to you an organization called F3 before we started chatting here. It's this men's workout group that I'm part of here in Charlottesville. And I'm on the advisory council for the national foundation of the organization as well. But it's just a group of dudes who show up every every morning, but several mornings a week. And we do really hard workouts. We worked out at 5:30 this morning and it was really freaking hard. And this is part of my environment of excellence. I know these guys are waiting for me. There's a community of guys who are willing to go through hard things at dark 30 in the morning. And it's this environment of excellence. So we have to craft that. It just exists by default when you're an athlete, especially at the Division I level. Certainly at the Olympic level, military folks can understand this because there's an infrastructure there as well. So that's the third piece. And then the fourth and final piece is you have to have a plan to follow through. Like, it's one thing to identify your vision and your values and have these aligned goals and have this environment of excellence. But, kids get sick and that throws you off, or cars break down, or global pandemics happen, or whatever it might be. Yeah. Things throw you off course, and then you never get back on the path. And if you drift through life and you've done this work, but you're not following through on it, you don't have a structured, systematic plan, execute and follow through, even on the bad days and bad weeks and bad months and bad quarters, it's going to be something you did. It was great. It's helpful. I set these goals, but I don't even remember what they are now. And that's right. That's where most people fall off.
So what would you recommend to those people that maybe they don't have the group around them that you had at Virginia to help you get to that point, right? Maybe they're working in an environment that doesn't foster that, right? Not everybody's lucky to have that. So for that person that is looking for more, that wants to be around more, what advice would you have for them if they don't have it in their everyday world now?
Those people are out there. And we have to actively seek them. You have to actually create an action item, a plan, a goal to get around those people. And it might be as simple as getting into a business networking group, right? Getting around other business leaders or entrepreneurs. Get into a workout group like I talked about, right? Find other people. If you don't have F3 in your area, you can Google F3 and you can find out if it's in your area. I know where you're in St. Louis, there's tons of those, but get around, find ways to get around these people. Church is another one, it doesn't matter, wherever you can find people who are operating at the level that you want to operate, go get around those people. So for me, looking back on my career, I gave a TEDx talk titled "Why I Teach My Children to Fail," which was largely about my wrestling career, which was mostly failure until I got onto the podium at the national championships. And that, I gave that TEDx talk only, it started from a failure. I spoke at an event and I was terrible. I was nervous. I was just did a horrible job. It was embarrassing. I'm like, I got to fix this. Well, who do I know, or how can I get around other people who either are working on fixing this or have already fixed this? Well, Toastmasters. And so I joined the local Toastmasters, started giving speeches in a safe environment and learning how to give talks. And lo and behold, one day an opportunity came up to give a TEDx talk. I applied, I got chosen. There was they had this whole lineup of great speakers, and they had one spot for a community speaker, and I applied, and there was 65 people applied. 25 of us got a chance to do an audition in front of 500 people. It was an audition. Wow. And then they did an audience vote. I won that, and I got to speak on the main stage. But it's luck is when opportunity meets preparation, they say, right? So I was prepared for that. But I was around people. It was a group of people who were studying and learning the same thing. And if it wasn't for those people, I would have never gotten to do the TEDx talk. And the TEDx talk spawned my podcast and spawned my business and really led to so many other things. So you have those people are out there. There's a quote, who was it? Jim Rohn, I think, said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around." And for me, so, we talked, we both have 4 kids. So in my home, there's 3 females and 2 males, right? 3 females and 2 males. And so for the average of those are the 5 people I spend the most time with. So the average for me would be like a teenage girl. So I'd be like a teenage girl if I was the average,
making less than minimum wage.
Exactly. Right. So you have to what are the other ways you can bring people into your world? So the environment of excellence, there's actually 4 pieces to it. Now I'll break it down real quick. So, and a way to remember it is through the acronym MAPS, M-A-P-S. M stands for media. You can bring these people into your world, into your universe through listening to podcasts like this one, through books, through social media, who you do follow and also who you don't follow, right? What's the media that I need in my life and what's the media I need to block out of my life? So when I was wrestling, I shoot, I didn't watch much TV, but when I did, I was watching film of the national championships or the world championships or breaking down film of myself or my opponents. I used to have a mindset audio that I listened to with a Walkman. You remember Walkmans?
Yeah,
I had a
yeah.
Walkman back in the day, it was like a cassette tape, but I would listen to that before I went to bed. Like, this is the media that I brought into my life, right? It moved me towards the goals that I wanted to achieve. So that M is for media. A stands for area. And this is your physical space.
These are the four what again?
Sorry, these are the 4 parts of the environment of excellence.
Environment of excellence. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And so MAPS, maps. And just like you need a map to get from where you're at to where you want to go, you got to have, a map to get from where you're at to where you want to go in the real world in your life too. So M stands for media, A stands for area, like the physical space around you. And for me, when I was competing, I had my goals posted on my wall, and I had a big poster of an Olympic gold medalist on my wall. And I had a training journal and log in top right-hand drawer of my desk. I had healthy food, healthy snacks around me. Like, I had this optimized environment, this optimized space around me. And it's the same in the real world. Like, I'm talking to you right now from my standing desk. I've got healthy food next to me. I've got my goals posted right here in front of me. Like, you have to have this space around you that is optimized for success. So that's A for area. P stands for people. Already talked about people. That's your coaches and your teammates, the people around you. And I know I've heard you talk about it on your podcast before, Brett, like, and being willing to invest in a coach. Like, are you actually willing to do that? And again, to use your example, Tom Brady, Tom Brady had coaches, right? He had strength coaches. Right. Pretty sure he knew how to lift weights. He had a nutrition coach. Pretty sure Tom Brady knew what to eat, but he still had those people in his life pouring into him. So that's P for people. And then S is for speech. And that's the language that we use. Really, this is a big part of the internal environment of excellence. Like, what are the words I'm saying to myself? What are the words I'm saying out loud to others? Like, yeah, I can't do it. Whoa, boy, this economy is really terrible. Boy, finding a job these days, or gosh, my boss, he's really sucks. Like, really, are you going to say that? Or are you going to say, there's a lot of opportunity out there, boy, down economy, a lot of people are looking this way. I'm going to look that way. Like, what are the opportunities to change your language? Because everybody talks about attitude, have a great attitude. Well, what does that mean? Well, it starts with language, and that's the speech part. So those are the 4 parts of the environment of excellence.
Yeah. And it's funny you talked about your goals being around you. And I remember back, I'm 45 now, but when I was 23, I remember having my goals literally framed in a nice frame right next to my phone. Cause back then, man, I was banging out 40, 50, 100 phone calls a day, just trying to find clients. Right. And so I knew that when the times were tough, I'm like, I really want to make this 58th phone call today, or get told no for the 17th time. Right. It's like, but those things in that frame were so important to me. Those are the things that kept me going. Right. And I think clarity around that is huge for us. And for me, I've got my journal here that you can get on Amazon, shameless plug there, the Future Greater Than Your Past journal. But I have you write down every single day what your 90-day goals are. Every day, right? So if I were to ask you, if you write down your goals every day for the next 90 days, is there a greater likelihood of you hitting those, yes or no? Pretty 100%, obvious, right?
There's a greater chance at getting there. It's this small mindset shift. This is like this. I love that, Brett, by the way. I'm going to check that out, that journal out. I love that. And you listen, I'm preaching to the choir with you. So writing those goals down has such an impact on your mindset and sort of how you operate in the world. I'm going to share a story with you. So there's a guy by the name of Kyle Dake. Kyle Dake is, he was a high school wrestler going to college to Cornell University. He was a good high school wrestler, but not like, he was not going to sort of win the national championship his freshman year or anything ridiculous like that. But so his mom and dad drop him off at Cornell University, drop him off at school, and his mom hands him a journal and says, Kyle, write down your goal on this journal. Go, write your goals down in there. He said, okay. So he wrote down his goal. Mom and dad dropped him off, and he wrote down his goal. He said, Kyle Dake, 2009, 141 pound NCAA champion. He wrote that down that night. And then the next morning he woke up and he did it again. Then that night, he did it again. Same thing. Every morning and every night. Every single morning, every single night, national champion. and he won the national championship his freshman year, which is crazy. That doesn't happen very often in the sport of wrestling. Next year, he bumps up a weight class, and he writes down his goal now twice in the morning, twice at night, every day. Goes on to win the national championship again. Third year, bumps up another weight class. Writes his goals down 3 times in the morning, 3 times at night. Yep. Wins another championship. Fourth year, 4 times in the morning, 4 times at night. He becomes the first person in the history of college wrestling to win 4 national championships, each one in a different weight class. Mind blowing. I mean,
incredible.
Here's the thing, who does it? It's ridiculous. Like, who writes their goals down every morning? I mean, that's absurd. It's a little bit crazy. Well, is it? Because this is what world-class performers do.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I got to look at this guy. What's his name again?
Kyle Dake. He's now a world champion also, by the way.
How you spell Dake?
Dake, D-A-K-E.
Oh, just like it would sound. Okay. That's amazing. Good for that guy. I thought that's where you're going to go. I'm like, no way. The dude bumps up 1 a year and does that. So
every single year.
What would I find for you? I'm always, I'm inspired by people that have normal habits and rituals that they keep every day. But what are the ones, if I followed you around with the camera, I would see are no miss items for you every day, but also if we can be transparent and vulnerable, which I know you can be, what's the hardest one? Even though you still do it, what's the hardest one for you to do daily?
Yeah. So for me, I always talk to my clients about core habits, and it's sleep, nutrition, and exercise. So if you just start with those, if you get those things right, a lot of other things are going to be easier for you, right? The consistency, whether it's making the sales calls or being patient and present when you're home with the family and kids, or being productive at work, whatever it is. Like if you can get close or nail those core habits every day, then you're going to have a 50% head start on just about everybody else. Yep. So for me, it's those, right? Especially the exercise and the nutrition. So for me, I mentioned this F3 group, whether it's that or going or running, I do a lot. I work out a lot. And so for me, like, it brings a lot of confidence. I feel better physically and mentally, psychologically. I just feel so much better when I work out. So that's a big one for me. And then the other one is on the nutrition side is, I just before a call, I finished a big salad. Like I don't eat junk food, especially during the workday. I slip, and I don't always eat perfect. I'm not trying to be some guru who's sitting on top of a mountain saying I'm perfect, but I do eat right, and I put the right fuel in my body because it makes me feel good. And I actually thought about like your audience, Brett, as I'm sitting here talking to you on the Circle of Success podcast. I'm thinking I need to be ready and on top of my game and not feeling like crap when I show up with this podcast episode. So those are the things that, I mean, gosh, I wake up at 5 o'clock, a little bit before 5 o'clock, and it's painful every freaking day. I'm not a morning
never
person,
gets easier.
Never was. Never. It doesn't get easier, and that is why this environment of excellence is so critical. Like my clients they're in a community of other people who are doing hard things.
Yep.
And when you're around these people doing a hard thing, just is kind of the norm. Like my wife thinks I'm crazy. I'm running a trail half marathon Spartan race this weekend, and she thinks I'm crazy and extreme. I'm like, I work out. I worked out this morning with a 63-year-old guy who just ran Boston in 3:28. There's another guy. I mean, I'm not even anywhere close to like the crazy fit guy in my workout group, but it's like, there's stamps. And again, I'm part of a mastermind in a group of entrepreneurs. Like, and there's some really incredible entrepreneurs in this group. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but when I'm around those people, it raises my level. So those are the hard things. Like if you want to do hard things, if you want to get yourself to do hard things, like I want to do the hard thing, but I can't do it. I can't seem to get up early and do the extra work. I can't seem to stay focused at work. Like can't seem to, make that 58th sales call. Get around other people who are making, 75 sales calls a day. All of a sudden 58 feels like, okay, this is like table stakes. I got to dial it up here.
I love that. Yeah, it is, man. It is who you surround yourself with. And I think about, for me, it's exercise, is, getting back after it. So in August of last year, I said, you know what, man, I'm tired of not holding myself accountable to exercise to the level I need it to be. right? So I focus again in my journal on 90-day goals. And so one of those for this 90 days, April, May, right? Those April, May, June, those 3 months, I write EOP, exercise on purpose, right? And it may not mean something to somebody else, but for me, there's meaning behind that, right? I know if I went and I just kind of half-assed it, or if I went and worked out, right? And so for our accountability, it was 13 guys on a group text. People listen to this every week are probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but I think you got to hear something 9 times before it sets in. And so get that accountability group of people around you. That's what I'm hearing you say nonstop is you got to show up at whatever 5 or 5:30 in the morning and have people there that are running marathons at 60 something years old, right? Surround yourself with better people, but also be the leader of that, man. If you don't have an organization that you can go do, I think you got friends. And so, right, when the wintertime came and it was cold, we didn't want to meet in my backyard, you had to send a picture at 6 a.m., right? So now guess what happens? It works so well, you start to fade off a little bit. And somebody texted me on Thursday of last week, hey, get the text chain going again, right? So now we're back, right? Now we're back. We're going to get it going. So I just think when you hear me say that, like, what comes out of that for you? What do you hear?
I'm working with a CEO of a company right now, and we were on a call with his executive team, and he said, sometimes we get so good at something that we stop doing it.
Yep.
And it like really struck with
me.
me.
Why in the hell do we do that?
Yeah, right. And so one of my favorite coaching questions with people is, what has worked? Like, what has worked? What has worked for you? And for the listener, whether it's in your business and you're trying to level up, or trying to grow your business, or get that promotion, or become a leader, or get healthier, or fix your relationship, or whatever it is, like, simply ask yourself the question, what has worked? If you answer the question, what has worked, you might say, well, this worked in my business life. Well, okay, well, how can you then take that to your relationship at home? Right. Or if this worked in my health and fitness, being on the text thread with a bunch of people. Okay. How do I, maybe I can apply that to my bit. Who do I know that needs to make the 58 phone calls a day? Who do I know that needs to do that? Let's freaking create a text thread with them. Like, do those things. And so these are questions, right? That bring us this sort of clarity, just simply answering the question, what has worked? And I used to always ask on my podcast, I would say, interviewed, the Tim Ferrisses of the world, and Jack Canfields and Ken Blanchards, and on, Shannon Miller, Olympic gold medalists, et cetera. And I would always say, what's the one habit you most credit for your success? And you would assume that for the Olympic gold medalists, it was some kind of training habit, or you would think that the New York Times bestseller would say it was some kind of writing habit. But it was never what you would expect. It was always some version of working with a coach, working with a mentor, journaling, doing some kind of retreat, or stepping back in their life and evaluating. And so I've coined a term for this. I call it the productive pause. The productive pause. And a productive pause is this. So here's the definition of it. A productive pause is a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that leads to clarity of action and peace of mind. Clarity of action and peace of mind. Like, that's what we all want. And it doesn't come from doing the same thing today for no better reason than that's what we did yesterday, and doing the same thing tomorrow for no better reason than that's what we did today. No, you can't do that. You have to hit the productive pause. You have to hit the pause button and do this productive pause. You have to ask yourself questions. What has worked? Or you buy a journal like yours, Brett, and it forces you to do that productive pause every day. When you open the journal, you write down your goals, and I'm sure there are some questions in there that are bringing people clarity of action, peace of mind, setting them on the right course for the day.
Yeah.
So for the listener, you have to carve this time out. Like, when I think back to my wrestling life, if you ask me what was the most important 1 hour that I spent the entire wrestling season, it wasn't in the weight room. It wasn't in the training room or wrestling room, practice room. It wasn't watching film. It was the 1 hour that I spent with my coaches at the beginning of the season, where we mapped out the season. We set my goals. We identified different things and strengths and weaknesses. Like, that 1 hour set the course for the whole year. So that is a productive pause.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny you say that about the Olympic athletes. I had one on, Annie Coons, and she said she was the heptathlete, and which is probably the most in shape, Olympic there is to do all
Sure.
of those things. And so she said, I'm like pen and paper, right? I'm ready to rock. She's going to give me the secret sauce. She's
Right.
like, mindfulness, like meditation, 5 to 10 minutes a day. And I practice gratitude. 3 things I'm thankful for. I'm like, that's it.
Come on,
I'm like,
come on.
it's
I
so
thought you were
simple,
going to
but
give me
man, it's
like,
so true.
The shake, like what's the magic ingredient that I'm supposed to put in my smoothie,
Right.
or what's the pill that I got to take? It's like, no, it's like mindfulness, gratitude. Like what? Like that's the secret. Yes, that's the
Yeah.
secret. But here's the deal: like, are you doing it? Right? Like the secret is like writing down your goals every morning and every night, like Kyle
Right.
Dick. Like, do you have these habits? If you can listen to a podcast like yours, but unless you're actually taking action and doing the work, I mean, that's none of this stuff works, as Brett. None of this works unless you actually do it.
Yep. 100%. So let's talk about the, I always joke that I've got a man or woman. Mine's a man. I'm a guy that sits on my shoulder. The woman listening could have that woman on her shoulder that says one thing: hey, you can do this, man. Go get it, Brett. You got it. Take the world over, And then you got the person over here that sometimes can be just a little bit taller, right? And they're saying, man, who the hell do you think you are, right? Like, why do you think you can do that? How do you personally help yourself through those moments of that self-defeating thinking?
First of all, thank you for assuming that I have it and that everybody has it, because we all do. And, so it's so easy to look at other people and think, oh, it's just easier for them. And
Right.
success just comes easy. They don't have the self-doubt. It's like, no, BS, man. It's like everybody has that. And, like I said, I grew up in a small town. I was a small kid. I was a small thinker, and success was for other people. And so I really had to wrestle with that for a long time. Not to, no pun
No pun
intended,
intended.
but yeah. And I went through my wrestling career being afraid of failing. And I got to the point where at the end of my junior year, I've been wrestling for 16 years. I've been competing for 16 years. And I'm now a junior in college. And, my goal is to be an All-American, right? I get to college and I actually redshirted my first year. And so for those who aren't familiar with college sports, you get 5 years to do 4 years of competition. You can take one redshirt year where you still train with the team and that sort of thing. And I trained with the team my freshman year and kind of matured and grew, got a little stronger. And by the time I actually rolled around to my redshirt freshman year, my second year in college, but my freshman year of competition, I made the starting lineup and I set my goal to be an All-American. And the first thing you have to do is get to the national championships. I qualified for the national championships as a freshman in college. And it was like, holy mackerel, I got there, but I failed to become an All-American. You have to win 4 matches. Sophomore year, again, I got to the national championships. Again, I failed. Junior year, pretty much a repeat of the prior 2 years. I get to the national championships and I fall short of my goal and I failed. And I go to the locker room and I remember just burying my face in a towel in tears, thinking, what's wrong with me? Like, am I not good enough? Am I not smart enough? Am I not capable enough? Like, maybe it's just not in the cards for me. Like, maybe I shouldn't set my goal so high. And I decided to dedicate my off season to figuring out what I was missing, because I couldn't work harder. There's not more hours in the day. I couldn't run more miles. I couldn't lift more weights, couldn't watch more film. There's not more I could do. And so I set my entire off season. My goal is to get with as many world-class performers as possible and figure out, like, what am I missing? Like, do I need to better techniques in the top position? Do I need to lift, get my legs stronger? Do I got to get better? Like, what do I need to do? And so I worked wrestling camps. I was a camp counselor at all these wrestling camps, and they would bring in, Olympic gold medalists and national championship coaches, and I would pick their brains. And the whole off season goes by. Heading into my senior year, it's the night before the first competition, and I'm sitting in a hotel in Morgantown, West Virginia, the night before the West Virginia University Open, and it hits me. I never figured it out. Like, I never figured out what it is that I was missing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, all I can do is all I can do. I gave up on the outcome. I gave up on becoming an All-American. And I said, all I'm going to do is all I can do. I can't, like I said, run more miles, lift more weights, watch more film. I can't do more. So everything I have, I'm going to put into this. And at the end of the season, if I get onto the podium, great. If I don't, I have to be okay with that. And putting down that baggage, that fear of failure, that doubt, that little voice on the side of that voice on the side on my shoulder, it became irrelevant. I was able to put down that fear, put down that doubt, and just go be free and actually compete to the best of my abilities. And I woke up, and the next day I went out and I dominated the competition. I went 5-0, won the championship, and I had more fun than I'd ever had wrestling in my career, my entire career. And I went through the entire season the same way. And I lost matches, but I had a great season, got onto the podium at the national championship. I got to, matter of fact, at the national championships, I won 3 matches. Now I got to win 1 more match to become an All-American. And I got to wrestle the 4th ranked guy in the country. He's on the number 1 ranked team in the country, University of Minnesota. There's 15,000 people in the arena. And my life, essentially to this point, comes down to this. It's this 7 minutes, this 7-minute match. And you want to think to yourself like, oh, hey, this is the one. I've got to perform my best. I got to give everything. I got to give 110%. It's like, no, you don't. You don't. Right. You just got to show up and give everything you've got. And if that's enough, great. If it's not enough, that's irrelevant. What's really relevant is that you put everything you've got into it and you don't leave anything on the mat. Like you just leave it all out there. And that's what I did. I dominated him. I won the match and I became an All-American. And so many times we listen to that voice of doubt that's on our shoulders, that voice that's saying, I told you so, you can't do this, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not capable enough. But we have to follow Stephen Covey's advice, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind. Okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals. This is critical to success, is having the goal, creating the vision. This is what the vision of success looks like. Now I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to create the process. I'm going to create the environment of excellence. I'm going to get around the right people, all this. And I'm going to let go of the outcome and just fully be. Just be in the moment, be present, give it everything you've got in that sales presentation, in that job interview, in that Spartan race, whatever it might be. Just be. Show up and do everything you can, because that's all you can do. And that's how I deal then and still deal with that little voice that's on my shoulder. Yeah. That voice of doubt.
So let's talk about that. So I gave a talk last week at a university, and these students, and it was a great group of young, soon to be professionals and all this stuff. But we talked about, and I said some things that I look back now and I'm thinking, you know what, that's right today where I'm at 45, but it wasn't what I was doing when I was their age. So when I was a young professional, I would say I was pretty good at thinking big, believing big, and doing things at a younger age that I probably shouldn't have been doing, meaning that I was just dumb enough to not think, well, of course I can go do this. I know I'm 26 years old. I can go be a managing director and be successful and do this. And so, but then as I've gotten older, I want to set realistic goals. Like if I'm struggling with exercise, I don't want to say, all right, tomorrow I'm going to start and we're going to work out 7 days a week and it's just going to continue to happen. It's like, no, let's start with the Tuesday and Thursday with the accountability group text message, right? Let's just go twice. Mm-hmm. And so it was a good awareness for me this weekend to think, gosh, which one is it? Is it think big, believe big, dream big, set these big, hairy, audacious goals, as people call them? Or is it good to be realistic? And I think, man, it really depends on where you're at in life, right? So when you hear me say that, what are your thoughts between the 20-year-olds, right? Yeah. The Bretts and you and I going out there as 25-year-olds versus, say, 45-year-olds. Where's Brett and Jim at on that level?
Yeah. It's this weird dichotomy of both. And, Jocko Willink wrote a great book, the dichotomy of leadership, and looking at kind of both sides of leadership. And it's the same in this, in goals. It's, like I said, start with the end in mind, but also give up on the outcome. Those seem to be opposites, but they're not. You have to have them both. Right. And you have to have, the big, hairy, audacious goal. I shouldn't say you have to, by the way. I'll come back and reframe that in a second. But if you have that big, hairy, audacious goal, it also starts with one step. It also starts with habits, right? whether it's the mindset habits or the how many times you pick up the phone and dial every day, or whatever those habits are that are going to get you from where you're at to where you want to go. But everybody, and we approach this in my coaching program, because we coach the whole person, from wealth and career to relationships and health. Like, some people just have it dialed in some areas, right? They don't need any help in their marriage and their health. They're like, I just need business advice, career advice. I just want to dial it up there, right? I want to go from good to great in that area. Great, we help you. If maybe it's your health, maybe it's like, man, I just, I'm crushing it. I'm making 7 figures plus, and my marriage is great, but man, I just can't seem to get consistent in my workouts. It's okay. Let's dial it up there. You don't need the BHAG in the other areas, or like, you have to figure out, like, what does the BHAG look like for you? And I'm actually, my retreat, my client retreat this coming weekend it's called the Limitless Life. Like, what does that look like for you? It's, actually today, everybody's pre-work, the work they have to do before the actual event, it's due today. And I can't wait to read them, because it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be different. I mean, I have people who are, published authors and, multimillionaires, and they're neurosurgeons and professional athletes, and people on, so the other end of the spectrum. And it's different. I shouldn't even say that end of the spectrum. It's just, they're at a different place in their lives, right? Where their families are, where their health is, where their wealth is. So you want to give a prescription, but it's really different for everybody. But it goes back to, if you can go back to, what's the vision for my life? What are my values?
Yep.
What are the goals that align with those values? Then you can map that out.
So what's something that's disrupting right now in the world? And you hear a lot about like GPT, and you think about, artificial intelligence, and we're sending people up into outer space and rockets coming back. Like, what is it for you, kind of turning the page here a little bit of this stuff and just kind of free flowing some things? What is it of those that you think will actually disrupt the most for the everyday man or woman?
Have you messed with AI much, or at least ChatGPT? Have you messed with that much?
I have. I've messed with it a fair amount, and but it just doesn't seem authentic and real to me. Like, I could have it go out and write a 500-page article, on Social Security and taxes and all this stuff, and I'm sure it'd do a great job. But for me, it doesn't seem, in my world, the world I live in with clients and people and their lives, it doesn't seem authentically real.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. It's going to be a game changer. I mean, I think in ways that we can't even predict. Just like the internet, you couldn't have predicted back in the 90s, the impact that the internet would have on us today. But I think artificial intelligence is the game changer. I'm actually working on I can't really share it right now. It's not open, but an AI version of something that's going to be a game changer. But
it's funny you say the intelligence. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they said, think about when the internet came out. You could type in anything and get information, right? There's artificial information and there's artificial intelligence. And it's like, now we're going to take all the information in the world, and then everybody's going to be smarter, right? If you know how to use it and you know what you're looking for and all that, and you adapt it into your world. This person was talking about how the world is going to be much more intelligent, which I hope so. I think that'll be pretty crazy if used the right way.
Yeah, if you use the right way. And, I use it a ton for not so much content creation. I do a little bit for content creation. My assistant will use it to help do a first draft of, say, a podcast description, so we'll use that to kind of get us 50% or 75% of the way there. And then we go put our touch on it. I'll use it to do research on guests for podcasts to help me sort of formulate conversation topics. Again, we'll create a ton of it, and then we'll sift through it and pick out what we like, combine things, delete a lot of things, and put our own touch and spin on it. But even creating images, you can have it create any image that you want, which is scary in the sense that, people are creating images of events that never happened and saying they've happened. So
tell me more about that. How do you create it? What kind of image are you creating?
So you could create, well, here's an example. I have a T-shirt I created for the Success Through Failure podcast, and so went into ChatGPT, said, here's here's what my brand is, here's what my podcast is. Creating a T-shirt. Give me 5 different descriptions of a T-shirt, and it can describe it. And you say, okay, pick which one you like, and you kind of like talk back and forth to it. Refine number 3 and delete number 4 and add to number 5, whatever. And then you pick which one you like, and then you take that over to something called Midjourney, and Midjourney is just another AI. And you could say, okay, create me a graphic with this description that you're copied and pasted from ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is like the sort of very basic sort of entry level sort of like, that's just the thing that most people know and talk about. But there's all these other tools out there that you can use in conjunction with ChatGPT or totally separately, that take that and just amplify it. I'm such a beginner at this, but like, I've gotten into this with this individual who's creating a pretty amazing company around this. Yeah, again, I'm in this mastermind group. I mentioned this mastermind group that I'm part of, these entrepreneurs, and oh my goodness, the what they're doing with AI is just mind blowing. Stuff that I didn't even realize was possible. So
yeah, it is crazy, man. It's going to be it definitely is going to be a game changer. There's no doubt about that. It's just hopefully it's in the right hands and going to be used for what it's hopefully meant to be used for. Right. That's the other scary part. So Jim, where can our listeners find more of you?
So if you Google my name, Jim Harshaw Jr., Jim Harshaw on any social media platform, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, you'll find me. And I love to connect with people. So, and you can find my podcast, Success Through Failure. Just published episode 400 not long ago.
Nice.
So I've been
Congrats.
at this for quite a while. Again, Navy SEALs and Olympic gold medalists, a lot of similar guests as yours. And we always pull back the curtain and say, tell me about a time when you failed. Certainly we're getting their habits and tactics for success, but also like, tell me about a time when you failed. Tell me about a time when things weren't so rosy for you, when there's some dark times. And it's amazing when you pull back the curtain, failure is actually not something that they're immune to or that they don't actually have to go through. It's something that they go through maybe more so than the average person, because they continue to get up one more time every time to get to the other side or whatever their goal is. So that's really the crux of the Success Through Failure podcast is, it's the only show that reveals the true nature of success. So it's on any podcast platform. You can check it out there, or you can go to jimharshawjr.com/apply. And you can, jump on a free one-on-one coaching call with me, and I can talk about how to implement this framework that I talked about earlier into your life.
I love it, man. We'll put all this in the show notes below and also on our YouTube page. So check that out. And Jim, man, it's been awesome having you. And thanks so much for sharing your wisdom on the circuit of success.
Likewise, Brett. Great meeting you. Thanks for having me on.